What can you do on a GLP-1 medication to lose the most weight possible? It's been shown in clinical trials that the only factor consistent in leading to people losing more weight is female sex, not starting weight, not age, not whether or not you have type 2 diabetes. But from working with lots of patients on these medications, there are a few traits that I see in people who tend to be very successful. The first trait that I see is that these patients go from being reactive to the medication to being proactive. This is kind of similar to a point I've made before, which is that some people game the medication rather than working themselves out. And what I mean by it is that patients go on a GLP-1 and some people feel fundamentally different. They find it much easier to eat in a healthy way. And so they do that. They react to the medication. But many people don't go beyond this. They don't take that next step to then thinking, right, how can I be proactive in keeping these habits in place? What would I do if I weren't on the medication right now? What did I used to do before that I've changed now, and how can I support this? It's kind of like you see all these great habits take off and you need to build a scaffold underneath them to maintain them in case your body adapts, in case you come off the medication, to try and give yourself the best shot of maintaining those habits. It might not be possible. This isn't to say that these patients will definitely be able to withdraw the medication and continue to have the success that they've got, but it gives them the best shot. And ultimately, when you build that scaffold, you want to be building something beautiful that you love, that you want to maintain. Examples of how patients might do this can be very small things to very big things. So I have some patients who have just fundamentally changed their routine. So they've realized that, oh, they're eating healthier now. What would make it easier for them to maintain this healthy lifestyle is, instead of going to the shop every day like they usually do on their way home from work, or if they work from home in their lunch break, instead they're going to do a once a week shop. It's going to be an exciting thing. They're going to go to a farmer's market and then they'll enjoy their veg more because the veg is just nicer, and that will get them into it. A lot of the patients that I work with have ADHD, and for many of them, actually, the process of putting meals together every day is quite overwhelming and puts them off. And whilst it's easier to do on a GLP-1 medication, once the novelty wears off, or if they get a return of their habits or they get a return of cravings, that can be difficult to maintain. So then they're putting in different steps, and everyone's very different in how we counteract that. But we put in steps to try and support the change that they're now able to make meals. How do we make it so they're consistently able to make meals or get to meals, rather than going back to grazing, which they might have done before, just because they're not necessarily wanting the sugary food more, although some people get dopamine from that, but it might just be the whole fact that you don't have to prep it, you don't have to wash up your pots afterwards. And so it's factoring in what's important to you, what your blockers are, why you were overweight in the first place, to try and build that support underneath your new habits. And if there's one habit that you could knock on the head, it would be grazing. It has been shown in multiple studies that patients who continue to graze after bariatric surgery are much more likely to regain the weight than those who don't. So if you can get into the habit of eating meals, that is a habit to choose to try and pursue for those people who really struggle. Another trait that I see in people who are successful on GLP-1s is they focus on the process, on what they're doing day to day, rather than necessarily focusing on the goal. Obviously, when you start out, most people just want to be thinner or not want to be fat anymore. And that's the big direction that they want to head in. And that's great. And that can be their focus for a little while. But over time, they evolve into looking at what they're doing in the day to day. And then they take it a step further than that. And they start to derive pleasure in what they're doing day to day. They get happiness from what they're doing day to day, rather than feeling like happiness only comes when they hit their target. And that's a better place to be. Actually enjoying your day to day, that's a total win, because that's actually what we're shooting for here. Most people want to be slimmer because they want to be happier and they think that will make them happier. If you can get increased happiness now, that is a win. The whole idea of focusing on the process rather than focusing on the outcome became very popular in self-help circles after the publication of the book Atomic Habits. This is a brilliant book that I would recommend to anyone. It can be a bit of a hard read for some though. Whilst there's lots of practical tips in there, actually trudging through it can be a lot harder than, say, reading The Power of Habit, which I recommend to everybody first. This is a lovely, easy to read book full of anecdotes that's just very interesting, and it leads beautifully into Atomic Habits. I've recommended both of these books to everyone on every topic since the beginning of time. They're just really nice books to read that really make you question some of the things that you do day to day. And an example of something else that they lead to, which again I've seen in my clinic, is in Atomic Habits. They talk a lot about habit stacking. So this is where you take something that you do every day, and if you want to build a new habit, you stack it on top. So your routine's already there, so you can automatically go, say, from brushing your teeth every morning to let's do your yoga. You want to bring in yoga to your life? Do 5 minutes of yoga immediately after brushing brushing your teeth. Get that little routine going so that you automatically build one habit on top of the next. That is something that some patients on GLP-1s have reported to me that they're doing that they've never been able to do before. And this, again, is particularly the patients with ADHD. For some reason, being on the GLP-1 helps them to be able to be consistent with their habits, to build morning and evening routines where they haven't before. And from these sorts of things, they derive a lot of pleasure. They can set themselves up for a healthier day of eating. They can set themselves up for a more productive day. And this sort of lifestyle, this sort of way of living is compelling. It's what you want to wake up and do every day. You're getting your happiness there and then from doing it. And so if your medication becomes less effective over time, as some people report, they adapt to the medication. This does not happen for all patients, but there are some patients who report it. It will come down to your underlying cause for obesity and how you're utilizing the medication. But if your medication becomes less effective, if you get more cravings, if you change over time, if you've built a life that you actively love, it is going to be much easier to keep doing that than if you haven't, than if you're going through the motions of eating rabbit food and being miserable in a gym that you hate. If you have built a day-to-day life that you actively want to lead and you've got into the routine of doing it, that puts you in a much stronger place to maintain that lifestyle when things change than otherwise. And this is why it's so important to build a lifestyle that you love, and because we should never lose focus of the fact that life is for living, not for dieting, and ultimately having a happier day to day is always the goal for every person. Which brings me to the next point, which is that to get to where you want to go isn't always a straight line. And the people who do well in evolving their habits in their day-to-day life are those who are prepared to go out and sometimes get it wrong, to sometimes be on the wrong path and need to change path. But that doesn't necessarily mean failure. You're still working towards your goal. You're just taking routes that maybe aren't the most effective to find the path that is. One of the difficulties we have with GLP-1s is they're expensive. And so many patients feel unless they're getting maximum weight loss every month, then they're not getting maximum bang for their buck because pounds equal bang, when that's not the case. Progress comes in multiple different forms. And one of the best forms of progress is trying new things, even if they don't work out for you. You might have a month where you don't end up losing that much weight because you've tried 5 different things that fail, but you've tried 5 different ways and found out they don't work. So you can hone in on the things that do work. And that is still progress. And that is important, that you have to be prepared to try things. I have a lot of patients who get very worried about having bad days on GLP-1s. And then they have a bad day and they go, oh, that's actually been one of the best things that I could do. We'll come back to the wording of bad day in just a moment. But one of the big benefits to GLP-1s for some patients who've really struggled with their weight is that prior to a GLP-1, they'd go on a diet, they'd manage it for weeks or months at a time, they'd have a single bad day and it would just completely derail them. And now on a GLP-1, they have that single bad day and they can just crack on. It's not clear why this happens for some patients, but you don't know that happens until you have the bad day to experience it. And you can see that you can move past it. And that's very exciting. And again, witnessing things like this, it's then about building that scaffolding up, trying to understand why that's the case and how you can support and keep that even if the medication becomes less effective. It's really, really exciting though. Being on a GLP-1 isn't about being perfect, and getting things wrong can be one of the best ways to work out what's right. Also, I've mentioned this again many times before, but I have patients who've said to me, I'm going on a GLP-1, but I'm not giving up my meal on a Sunday night because I go out with my family. It's all bad food, but I love it. And so they shouldn't have to give that up, and they carry on having that. And then over time, they realize on a GLP-1 that actually they're not enjoying the food at that event anymore. And actually they can go to the event and not eat the food and have all the social side and go home and cook something they really love. And so now they don't eat at that event every week, but they have a meal they really enjoy instead. And so they're no longer having the bad food, but now they're not coming from a place of restriction. They're coming from a place of actually enjoying it more, doing something healthier. That's a beautiful change. That is a much stronger structure that they're building than building their habits on restriction or beliefs that they've had from before. So sometimes doing things not entirely perfectly can lead you to the perfect place. And that is really important to remember. When I just mentioned bad days, I'm sure some people jumped up and said, oh, you can't say bad days with food. You have to say eating more or something that's more politically correct. I'm a big believer in actually being honest about how we feel about food. And many people do label days good or bad. And if you have a bad day, sometimes it's about reframing that and actually working out what you mean. Because for some people, having days where you eat more is a very good thing. It's a very good thing for them. It seems to work better for their body. It's freeing for them mentally and physically, and their body needs the food. And actually rewiring yourself can be hard. Now, this is where you have to, again, going back to that first point, work yourself out. So for me, I can't just tell myself something. I can't say, oh, don't say bad day, because I'll still say bad day because that's what I actually think. How I've managed to change that in my own head is through the running. I'm going to start a series next week. It's going to be a second video. So I'll still keep this sort of content, but I'm going to do a vlog maybe once a week or so, showing some of the stuff I'm up to sports wise, because I think it's really interesting. And I want to talk about my personal experience on GLP-1s in those videos, just to show some of the shifts that I've had. But I can't tell myself to think differently because I just won't, because I don't believe it. Instead, I have to show something to myself. I have to evidence it to myself. And so running for me has changed my mindset around food, because I used to underfuel when I ran. And so I'd run and not feel too good. And then I'd have the odd day where I overate and I had a bad day. And the next day my running would feel so much better. And so then I started to view those days where I ate more as, oh, this is a great opportunity now to run faster tomorrow. And it changed my mindset completely. And it went away from being, oh, I can't believe I ate all this stuff, to, oh, this is a good opportunity now. It is really important to say here that I do not use running to compensate for bad days of food. Compensating for bad eating is something very much normalized in society, which we should move past. It is not healthy, and it can very easily lead into bulimia loops where you overeat and then feel the need to compensate, and then that compensation actually drives the overeating in the first place, and that's a very vicious cycle to get into. One of the things, again, that I've really enjoyed on a GLP-1 is that I don't feel the need to compensate, because again, I've evidenced to myself that I have days where I eat more and nothing really happens to my body. I have days where I eat less. I don't immediately become thinner. it's just the way it works. I've got a much more relaxed outlook with food, and that is so very exciting. But you need to be aware, if you are doing things like compensating for bad days, if you are beating yourself up for having bad times, and again, this is something to really talk about with your healthcare worker. Ultimately, one of the biggest points of today's video is that success and the people who get the best outcome on GLP-1s are not always the ones who lose the most weight. It's not always the ones who hit the number on the scale that they wanted at the beginning. And I know that's not going to be a popular thing to say, but it's those people who work out along the way what they actually want from these medications. And for some patients, particularly those who've struggled with obesity for a long time, the biggest goal is freedom from food. The biggest goal is freedom from dieting and restriction, and that is possible to get on these medications. As much as they're framed as skinny jabs and a risk of causing eating disorders and all these things, for some people, they are freedom, and that's really exciting. For other people, no, it is about hitting that number on the scale and working out how to do that in a sustainable way. But then through all their trials and tribulations on the medication, they can really work that out and how to get there in the happiest, healthiest way for them. And so everyone's journey is very different. That's why I don't come here with you need to do this step and that step. That's what you can do with individual patients, where you work one-to-one with people. But when you're making content for a wider audience, there are general principles that underlie things. And some of these things are really difficult. As I said earlier, not everyone has the ability or intent to do the first step in this, which is to become proactive. But it's so important if you want to get the maximum benefit for you, whatever that might look like on a GLP-1 medication.